but it's okay. All right. So was that another person joining?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started today. Just for everybody's information, we are recording this, and once Hugh gets the recording file together, I'm going to try to get that on my YouTube channel so I can share it with everybody broadly. So no need to take large numbers of notes. And I think Hugh's going to man the chat room for me. So if there's any questions that you have as we're going along, please feel free to drop them either in the chat, or since we are a fairly small group today, I don't mind if you interrupt with a question. That's perfectly fine. I don't think it'll interrupt the flow at all. So the first thing that most people need to know about digital measures is why are we doing digital measures? So the why of digital measures is that it allows us to have an interactive curriculum vitae for faculty activities, and so it allows you to manage your activities more efficiently. It allows you to generate your annual and promotion and tenure reports more efficiently. It allows us to digitize the promotion, tenure, and annual evaluation process. It allows you as faculty the opportunity to for the most part, manage the content of your web profile, as well as some other things that we can do in terms of accreditation, if reports for accrediting bodies, reports for other types of things that we may need to know, various bits and pieces of information that are just not available in other places. So that's the why we do digital measures. And so now let's talk a little bit about how we get data into digital measures. And the first thing that you all need to know if you've never logged into digital measures is how to find digital measures. And you can locate that on the Office of the Provost website by going to Faculty Staff. And then, of course, the annoying pop-up comes up. Try to keep that to a minimum. And you're going to come down and you'll see all kinds of stuff on the Provost webpage. But we have a link here for digital measures, which will take you to a variety of guides and other things that you might need. But the very first one is login. So we'll click on that in just a moment. But also you'll notice that there's this fair use document. I encourage all users to read that fair use document. This fair use document was put together with faculty input through our Digital Measures Advisory Board. It really outlines what is considered fair use of the information that you put into digital measures. And then you've also got some user guides on your annual evaluation, how to build some custom reports and things like that. I've got a video on the why of digital measures, a video on how you can build what's called a BibTeX file, and we'll talk more about that later. And then there's some other FAQs that we frequently get. So go to the Provost page, go to digital measures, click login. That's going to take you to the digital measures login page, and you're going to use your IMPL ID with the W, very important. And you're going to input your SOAR password, and you're going to log in. Now, when you log in, it will look very different than mine. So let me get to my activities. This will look more like what yours looks like. And when you're in digital measures, you'll see that the main headings really are everything that we care about as faculty, right? In terms of our annual evaluation, promotion, and tenure. We care about our teaching as an institution. We care how well you teach. We care what you teach. We care that you're qualified to teach it. And all that information can be seen in the teaching section. We obviously care about our scholarship, research, and creative activities. And that's where you'll put in any information related to those types of things that you do. And then, of course, we count on our service, right? And so we're going to talk about each one of these sections as we go throughout this this afternoon. But we're going to start with general information. And general information houses more than you might think. And some of it is uploaded on your behalf. And some of it is up to you to put in. So if we click on the general information tile or panel, you will see there's several sub-panels, as we like to call them, right? All kinds of stuff. And let me just point out a few. So your personal and contact information will be here. Your awards and honors will be listed here. Your education and consulting, any postgraduate training that you may have done, you'll enter that there. Any kind of professional development activities that you do will be here. You can enter in your licensures and certifications, your professional memberships, your work history, all of that kind of information you can put in the general information tab. So let's start with the easiest of them, the personal and contact information. And when you pull this up, you will see a variety of things that you can change and a variety of things that you can't change. So anything that has a lock on it is locked, excuse me, it's called a locked field, and you can't change that information. That is how it is in our SOAR HR system. This is how this university officially recognizes you. Okay, so my first name is officially Douglas. I also prefer, for professional purposes, to go by Douglas on all of my professional documents, so I list Douglas there as well. Now, if your name is Robert and you go by Bob professionally and you want Bob to be what appears on all the documents that you generate, you would put a preferred first name of Bob, okay? You can select what prefix you want to use. Currently, we list Dr., Professor, Miss, Mr., and Mrs. So you have the ability to change that. So some people like to be referred to as doctor. Some prefer to be referred to as professor, so on and so forth. Whatever works for you, you can change that. We don't dictate that. You can add a suffix. Usually that's not kept in HR. You can keep track of your campus box number, although we do upload this every semester when we refresh the system. You can't edit this. We don't lock that. Your email, of course, is locked. We only allow you to use your USM email address per our policy at the institution of all official correspondence has to go through through your USM email. You can change where the building where your office is located. You can change your room number. Why is that important? Well, you know, for example, I actually have two offices on campus. I have my faculty office over on the floor where all the chemistry folks are, and then I have this office. So I could go in and change it on a daily basis to show people on my web profile if I wanted to, where I happen to be located at that time or on that day. So you can change all that. You can manage your phone numbers. You can delete your birthday if you want to. We do upload it, but a lot of people don't like that, but you can actually go in and delete your birthday. We did not lock that. You can, of course, take care of your own information that you have here. None of that is locked. You can also upload a photograph. So I've got a photograph that's uploaded here. So if I want to generate a CV document, for example, with my photograph on it, it can pull that photograph. I want to be very clear with this. This photograph that you upload into Digital Measures does not power the web profile. Very important that you understand that. Technically, it could have, but ITech made a decision not to use Digital Measures to manage that piece of the faculty web profile for reasons that are on a bit on the technical side that I don't feel qualified to really discuss. So you can upload a photograph there, but please note that that's not going to power your web profile. Any changes that you make to the system, you always want to make sure when you exit that you click Save. Okay, and that will save your panel. So you can go in at any time and change most of your personal and contact information as you need to. I'm going to cancel out of there. I'm going to skip biography, web expertise, and or the web profile and expertise section right now. I want to do that a little more towards the end. You also have administrative data. This is where we keep track of where you belong, so to speak, on a yearly basis based on what you're teaching. And some of you may find that if you look in your yearly data, you may be assigned to more than one college at any given moment. And that's because of where you teach. So this semester or this year for me, I'm really just in the school of mathematics and natural sciences, chemistry and biochemistry. But in the past, I'd actually taught a course for biology as well. And so I would also have a second row that would list that I was also in biology. You'll notice all of this stuff has a red R, which means that faculty can read it, but you can't overwrite it. It's kind of like locked, except I can actually go in and edit it if there's a mistake. Locked data, I have to go through a lot of rigmarole to even change. So even though I'm a super user. So you can go in and look at all sorts of kind of information on your yearly data record. We update that yearly data record every fall semester. So it's once per year. And you should have a yearly data record for every year that we go back in digital measures. So we go back to 2015 for yearly data records right now. Administrative assignments, we don't really, on my end, we don't keep track of this for you. This is something that you can go in and keep track of, but you know, I keep track of the things that I have been assigned to as an administrator, right? So I'm the SAC COC liaison. I'm the associate provost. I've been an associate dean. So I keep track of this kind of like work history, if you will, and you can always come in, click add a new item. You can mark your position role, okay? So for many of you, none of these will probably apply, but you can always select other. And when you select other, you have to put in an explanation of other. So what might be a valid role for you as other? Well, maybe you're a program coordinator. You might want to keep track of that here. So you could put that kind of information in here. You can talk about your scope, whether department or the university or the college level. You can keep track of the hours that you spend per year doing this. You can put in a commentary on your responsibilities, a brief description. Let me just say that brief description, according to digital measures, is 20,000 characters. That ends up being several pages of typewritten text. I am not encouraging anybody to put in several pages of typewritten text into anything in digital measures, but you can do it if you so desire. And then you can put in your start dates and your end dates for whatever that administrative assignment was. So maybe you're just in this role for a year, so you would put the start date and then you would put the end date. Dates are very, very important in digital measures. If something is a single day event, obviously not for administrative assignments, but if something happened to be a single day event, like in another panel, you would only enter the end date. You would not enter the start date and the end date together, since they both are the same thing. So anytime you have a single date event, you always just enter that as the end date. And that's very, very important to do that. I'm going to just exit out of this. You can keep track of all of your awards and honors. Okay, so you can come in, you can do a new item. You can manually input all of your awards and honor information in here. So you can put whether you were nominated or received. There are some awards that if you're nominated for them, obviously they're very prestigious and you want to list it whether you want it or not. I guarantee you, if I found out that I'd been nominated for a Nobel Prize, I would put that in my digital measures, even though I would not win the Nobel Prize. I would definitely put in there that I was nominated for it. You can put the award honor name. You can put in the organization and who sponsors it. You can put in the purpose of the award. You can put in the scope. Was it an international award, a local award, a college award, etc.? It's all pretty self-explanatory. You can put in the brief explanation of that award, and you can also upload a file as evidence of that award, okay? The file uploads are limited to about 100 megabytes in size. You can upload any file type, as far as I know. We have uploaded PDFs, JPEGs, Word documents. You can upload just about whatever you want. I have seen people on this type of panel for their award. They will just take a picture of the award on their wall, and they'll upload that JPEG as evidence that they've received the award. That is perfectly fine. It's not that the university requires evidence for these things, but your discipline might. Okay, so if you were listing as part of your annual evaluation that you won an award for Outstanding Teacher of the Year or whatever, they might want evidence of that as part of your annual evaluation. So you can keep track of all that here. And of course, you can put the date that you won the award. So obviously, when you input everything, you're going to want to save. If you're wanting to input more than one, you can hit save and add another, and it will just it'll save the current one and pull up a new blank thing for you to get started with. So you can input all of your awards. Now you'll notice here that I had 2 awards that I had received as lead advocate for the Society for Science and the Public. And if you look at one, right, they look the same except for just the date. I actually got them one year and then the next. So instead of typing everything out again in 2018, I just simply went over here and checked this little box. And then I told it to duplicate it. It duplicated the record, and then all I had to do was go in and change the date, because nothing else changed. It was the same award. So if you have any time that you want to duplicate a record, you just simply check the box, click duplicate, and that'll save you some keystrokes. So that's a great way to do that kind of thing. Let's talk about faculty and professional development activities that you've attended. This is where you're going to want to keep track of a variety of things. Today, you are attending a faculty development activity. You can enter in your work today as an activity that you've attended. Okay, so you would simply go to add a new item. You would say what the activity type is. Since this is running through the Center for Faculty Development, you would put USM Faculty Development Seminar Program. We ask that people reserve this particular label for things that are run through the Center for Faculty Development. So you would mark that. You would put in the title of today's workshop, digital measures data entry. The sponsoring organization would be the University of Southern Mississippi. There are no credit hours associated with this. You can put in the fact that this was about an hour and a half. You can put in a description of what you learned. And then since this is a single day event, you will just put the end date as today. You would not put the start date and then the end date. You would just put the end date, okay?
Doug, Kelly Lester said that all of the things that CFD has been running, they're going to somehow populate our digital measures for us. Do you know about that?
Yeah, they do. They send me periodically. I don't know what every so many weeks they send me a list of attendees and activities that they've done, and I automatically upload that on your behalf.
Oh, okay.
As long as they continue to send me those files, we will continue to do that. But that won't happen automatically, like at the end of this session. So I would ask Hugh to get back with everybody about kind of the time frame of when to expect that. So it doesn't happen, at the end of the day.
We're sending a big long spreadsheet soon. We're working on that. We had over 100 worksheets over the summer, so we're running a little bit behind on that. But you should expect a lead time of probably 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, sounds great. So another thing that I want to point out, I don't know what everybody's discipline is that I'm talking to today, but you'll also notice there's this continuing education program. And I know that this is very, very important for like our nurses and our professional programs that require continuing education units to remain licensed. We are having faculty keep track of all of that for their accrediting purposes within digital measures as well. So you can put in your continuing education program information by using that title. You can put in the number of credits you earned, a description, and then of course all of your evidence and stuff can be put there as well. So I'm going to cancel out of this one. And again, licensures and certifications, you can keep track of that kind of thing. I don't know, maybe you're a licensed scuba diver and you keep that in your CV because you teach a scuba diving class. Well, that would be a great place to keep track of that kind of information as well. So you can put in the date that it was obtained, your expiration date. You can put a copy of the license document, you know, a PDF of the certificate or whatever the case may be. You can put all of that kind of information in there pretty easily. You can keep track of your professional memberships. You can keep track of as many professional memberships as you have here, and this will help when you get ready to populate your web profile with your memberships, and I'll show you a little bit more about that later. So it'll pull from this list. So it's pretty simple. You just add a new item again, and you go in and you put in the name of the organization, the scope, right? There are some organizations that are local, some that are state, some that are national, some that are international. And then you can put your dates that you were a member. Now, for many of you, you'll probably notice all of mine say some start date to present. That means I never entered an end date. I'm a continuous member of these things, right? So it will keep this running along. Now, if I decided that I wanted to get out of AAUP and stop paying my dues, I could go in and put the date that I canceled my membership, and then it would give the date range for which I was a member of that particular organization. But I'm a card-carrying member of all of these organizations, so I keep my memberships up, and they're all active. You can also put in references. This is to, if you want to generate a curriculum vitae or a resume, obviously you might need references, and so you can put your references information there. You can put in your work history. I'm not going to go through all of these in great detail. What I will say is workload information. If you went into that, you should see that there's nothing there. This type of information is going to be managed by your directors in the future. We haven't gotten to that point yet with our annual evaluation process, but that's next on the list. So you'll see that you can read this information, but you won't be able to write to it. So that'll come out of your annual evaluation kind of stuff in the future. And then you've got a panel here for annual evaluation. Just ignore this for the most part, because we deal with annual evaluation now by using the workflow module, which I'm not going to talk about today. So this has really become kind of redundant, probably just needs to go away in digital measures. That's the general information in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions about that before I go on to the other information?
What's the difference between education and graduate, postgraduate training?
Very good question. So education is going to be your things for which you have actually received a degree, right? So like my PhD, if I go in there, you will see that it's all read only. This is what is in HR for me. I've got a bachelor's degree and I've got a PhD degree. I can go in and add a few things. I could put in my dissertation. I could put in my supporting area, which was organic chemistry. We will eventually upload your transcripts for you so that you have easy access to this. I can put in information about my advisors. I can do all that kind of stuff in education. So anything for which you have received a diploma for should appear in education. Your graduate, postgraduate training would be things like I did a postdoc, or I did an internship after I graduated. Those types of things you would put here, and you would just simply come in and keep track of that. You know, did you do a clerkship, a fellowship, an internship, postdoc, residency, or something else? And anytime you select other, you got to give an explanation of what other is. But you know, when I got hired, I had to have a postdoc to be here, but HR doesn't care about my postdoctoral work. There's no transcript associated with it. So that's why I put my information about my postdoc work here. Put a little description and I put the dates. And so I keep track of that kind of thing there. That answer your question?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, great. All right, so in general information, we upload some things for you. We take care of your administrative data. We take care of your personal contact information. You can enrich some of this information. But by and large, you're responsible for keeping up with this. Now, in teaching, we upload an awful lot for you in the teaching area at the end of the semester. Okay? But there are certain things that you do that we count as teaching that we really don't keep track of in SOAR, right? We don't keep track of how you mentor students in SOAR. We don't keep track of directed student learning very well, or excuse me, non-credit instruction, that kind of stuff. But we do keep track of your scheduled teaching, and we upload a lot of that information for you. So I'm going to start off by just talking about the things that we upload for you, and then we'll get into the things that you need to keep track of. So under academic advising, at the end of every semester, we upload for you what your advising list is as it is listed in SOAR. This is one of the things that I always get complaints about. People will always tell me, I advised more students than you have listed for me. And you know what? That's probably true. 99% of the time, I'm sure that's true. But there are a lot of times, or a lot of the time, what happens is you end up getting advisees assigned to you that haven't been changed in SOAR. You know, let's suppose Hugh and I are we are in the same department or the same program. So let's say Hugh is an advisor and he's out sick and they end up coming to me for advising. Well, it didn't change in SOAR, but I did advise them, okay? I can go in and enrich that record. So let's suppose that happened in the summer. And in the summer, SOAR thought I didn't have any undergraduate students. Well, it's true, I didn't. In SOAR, I had 2 graduate students, right? But I can come in here and I can put in, I advised additional students due to something like that, right? I can put whatever I want. And so then I can enrich that record, if you will, right? I can put in the number of hours that I spent doing advising. I can keep track of all of that information. You can actually put in evidence of that activity if you want to. I never put evidence of activity for advising, but I have been told that there are some schools on campus that require that, and so we allowed them to have a drop bot or a file drop to where they can put a file for evidence of their activity. So I don't really know too much about that part because it's just not part of my annual evaluation. We don't have to do that for our advising. But again, the stuff that's with red R, you can't change, but you can enrich the record pretty readily. So we take care of that for you at the end of the semester. Oops, what did I do? There we go. We take care of your scheduled teaching in terms of uploading things. So when you click on your scheduled teaching, you will notice that it should go back to about, I think we go back to 2010. I think we went back 10 years. And I don't want to show all, but we go back quite a ways. So if you've been here longer than that, stuff past that, we just haven't uploaded. And to be honest with you, we're not going to. It's just a headache. But we went through and included many years of teaching, scheduled teaching, so that if you're going up for promotion or tenure or whatever the case may be, that we were capturing all of that information. So let me pick on a real class here. Let's look at the fall for my Chemistry 108 course that I taught. So fall of 2019. You'll see that there are some locked fields. That's because this is coming out of SOAR and we can't change that. I can't go in and change that. The term for this course was fall 2019. The course prefix and number, those are hard-coded kinds of things. You'll see the session that I taught it in, the class number. Most of this stuff is not going to be relevant for a faculty member. You'll see instructor load factor. That means I was the only instructor for this course. So if you are a co-instructor for a course, you need to make sure that your director assigns you a percentage of the course load so that it will pull into your digital measures account. I do have some courses that I team teach, and so I will be listed as less than 100% in those courses. You know, there's the official enrollment number, the number of total credit hours. This was a 1-hour course. All of that kind of information is coming straight out of SOAR. My grade distribution is coming out of SOAR. But notice there's things that I can change, right? You can list the high impact practices that you use in your course. You can check off any of these that you do, so you can keep track of high impact practices. And I know Hugh and the Center for Faculty Development has a number of workshops and trainings that they have on various high impact practices. So if you're involved in using a high impact practice in your teaching, you need to go through and mark which ones they are, so that you can quote unquote get credit for that. We use that kind of information to see how the use of high impact practices is evolving at our institution. So we are heavily encouraging people to use high impact practices. If you check these, you can give a description for these high impact practices that were identified above. Again, you can type up to 20,000 characters. I highly recommend you keep it simple. No need to go in and be extremely verbose. You can say whether or not this was a new course preparation for you. So maybe you're a teaching faculty member that's on a 4-4 load, and you taught only 2 courses one semester. And the reason that you taught those 2 courses was because they were both new preparations and they wanted to give you some release time to develop those courses. You're going to want to talk about that, right? So you would mark yes for new course preparations, and then you can add any comments that you want. Maybe it's a course that you've taught for 10 years and you got kind of tired of it and you wanted to change the format around. You could come in and you could mark yes for changing for a new format. And again, making any comments that you want. You can upload a file for your syllabus. We highly recommend you keep copies of your syllabi in digital measures. That way you don't have to send your syllabi to your school directors so that they keep them on a hard drive somewhere that nobody knows where they're at in case of a grade review. We can always get them out of digital measures in case there's a grade review. You can keep track of any kind of supplemental material or student comments that you may get. You can keep track of that here as well. We added this as a file upload because a number of people like to keep track of all those little notes they get from students that thank them for such a great class and all that kind of thing. You can assemble those into a single file and drop that here if you wanted to. And then your course evaluations will appear here for the spring of 20 and moving forward. And I'll show you an example of that in just a moment. We weren't using that in the fall of 19. So this watermark course evaluation comes from our evaluation kit information. So again, this is an example of where we upload a lot of information for you, but then you need to go in and enrich that record through telling us what kind of high impact practices you do, etc. Upload your syllabus and all that kind of information that you want to keep track of. And of course, once you've updated it, you'll want to save, and it'll save the information and you'll have it. Now, like I was mentioning, starting in the spring of 2020, we went to using evaluation kit for our course evaluations. So you can see immediately that I've got a link in this course. If I click on that, it's going to pull up my course eval. And you can download and look at your entire course evaluation, including comments and all that kind of information. I'm not going to give you too much time to look at the numbers, but they're there. And you can download those for all of your courses here forward for spring of 20 moving forward. So that's our scheduled teaching. Again, these 2 things we're uploading for you, and you can enrich the record. However, you all know that you get invited to come give a quick little lecture to a class. I know people have invited me to come and talk during the class period about something that maybe is my research area as it becomes relevant to the class they're teaching. None of that is captured in SOAR. But that is stuff that you do, that you work hard at, that you need to get credit for. And we call that non-credit instruction taught. Okay. So what I'm doing right now for you all, giving this workshop, this is non-credit instruction. And so I keep track of all of these things that I do, right? So if I give a workshop, I gave a workshop on April 23rd, I keep track of that. I gave a guest lecture in February of 2019, or February to March, right? And so I input that information in here. So this was a class, it was a graduate level class that instructors from various different areas in chemistry came and talked about their area of expertise. And I had several lectures devoted to mass spectrometry. And so I wanted to capture that. So I gave some guest lectures. So I marked it as guest lecture. The audience, of course, was internal to the University of Southern Mississippi. There were 9 students. It was definitely academic because it was a class. I was not the instructor of record, but I was offering a few lectures. Apparently I did 3 lectures, right? So I gave a description. I uploaded a syllabus that showed that I was giving those guest lectures. And then I put the start date and the end date for when I was responsible for that. So again, none of that's appearing in SOAR, but it's part of my load, right? It's things that I do. It's effort that I'm putting into teaching at the university, and we need to capture that. So there are several things that, you know, might be of instruction types that you may want to keep in mind, like, you know, maybe you're doing a continuing ed kind of thing, or you're doing a review course or some type of seminar. You know, you can keep track of all of that here in what we call non-credit instruction taught. As faculty, we all do it. We've never really gotten good credit for it, and now we can. It's a good place for you to keep track of that kind of stuff, and keep and use that for your annual evaluations. You also have a place to keep track of your mentoring. You may wonder what is the difference between advising and mentoring, and that is a fair question. And I think it depends on your discipline. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but to me, mentoring, I take care of usually in other areas. So I really don't use this panel myself, but you can use it to keep track of any students that you mentor outside of your advising role, and you can pretty much so keep track of that there. We don't keep track of that for you. You can keep track of your directed student learning. This is your theses and dissertations and other things like that. So you can keep track of that kind of information. Just go to new item. And you've got all kinds of involvement types. The list goes on and on. I don't understand all of these because I'm not in some of these disciplines that really use these, but obviously dissertation committee member or committee chair, that's certainly something I think is pretty universal. Maybe you supervise some high school student researchers. Maybe you did some supervised teaching activities. You can also keep track of things that you mentored in terms of student publications or student creative activities. So let's suppose you have a student that's working on a publication for which you're not going to be a co-author, but you're guiding them through the process of publishing that work. You would want to keep track of that here. You're mentoring them through that. Okay. But we do consider that directed student learning as opposed to mentoring for a variety of reasons.
Doug, we have a question about non-credit instruction at other schools. Would you consider that service, or would you consider non-credit instruction only here at the university?
That's a good question, and I think it depends on what your discipline or your school, how they would count it. It could certainly be listed as service. I typically default that kind of stuff to non-credit instruction taught because I think from my own personal bias about this is that instruction is seen as better than service by a lot of evaluation. And I think instruction should carry more weight than just, oh, that was just a service activity. So my own bias is to count it as non-credit instruction talk, because I think instruction just has higher merit in an annual review process than service does. And that's borne out by the fact that, you know, my unit gives me 35 or 40% credit towards instruction, but only 10% or 15%, I can't remember the number now, to service. But it could be either way. That is definitely a gray area. You can keep track of your teaching innovation here. So let's say you're developing a new curriculum, you would keep track of that here. Or you're revamping coursework, you can keep track of all that kind of stuff here. It's pretty simple. You would just put the activity type. Maybe you all are developing a new, exciting master's program in whatever. That would be curriculum development. You would put in the program name that you're working on, then you would go in and talk about the description of that activity. I'm going to cancel out of that. I don't have much in this area myself. I did revise some courses a few years ago, and so that's what I included there. Don't worry about teaching qualifications. You really can't add anything there. We're going to put all of your teaching qualifications in digital measures in the not too distant future, hopefully, so that everybody knows what they've been qualified to teach from a SACS perspective, and that'll help us with our SACS COC reports that we have to develop from time to time. But that won't be something that faculty themselves will have to worry too much about. Scholarship, research, and creative activities. This panel, of course, is kind of the bread and butter panel, if you will, for everybody. This is where you keep track of all of your research activities, anything that you're doing on a creative level, anything that you consider scholarship. This is where you're going to keep track of that kind of information. And this is probably where you're going to spend most of your time. I'm going to focus right now on publications and presentations. So let's look at publications first. You can add a new item, and you can put in publications, okay? So it's a lengthy thing to fill out. You can sit there and you can waste a bunch of time typing all this in. And you can get arthritis that way real quick, believe me, or carpal tunnel. But there's easier ways to get your information in for publications. And that is using the import button. So you can import your publication information from a third-party vendor. At this institution, we have subscriptions to Web of Science, Crossref, and PubMed. So we can import your information directly from those databases. Okay, you would just put in your name, your publication years that you were interested in looking at. You can add any other search criteria that you want to, like your research ID, and then you could search the Web of Science. It'll search it, it'll find everything, you'll select what you want to import, and then it will automatically import it into your publications list. However, I know that not every discipline has their publications listed in these databases. That doesn't mean that you are out of luck. You can actually import from Google Scholar, which pretty much captures everything these days. You can import from EndNote or Mendeley or Zotero if you happen to keep track of your work in that kind of software, okay? You have to create what's called a BibTeX file in order to do this. And there's a little question mark here if you're curious about what that is. It will take you to a file that will tell you what a BibTeX is and how you can build one, okay? I have a video on the Provost website that shows you how to build a BibTeX file. Once you've built a BibTeX file, you just go choose file, find the file on your computer, and then you import your publications, okay? I'm going to say no to this. I'm going to cancel. Oh, no, I'm going to say yes to that. Okay. Once you have imported everything, though, you need to go back and clean that information up. This is very, very important. Google Scholar will sometimes capitalize everything in a particular journal, and sometimes it won't capitalize everything. And you need to go through and make sure that it's cleaned up. Okay, so once you've imported, you need to go in and just verify everything. Okay, so in this particular case, this is a journal article that I published. Everything looks pretty good to me. The journal name is there. You'll notice my impact factor, that typically does not get imported for you, right? That's usually not in these databases. So you need to look that information up and put that information in. You frequently have to mark whether it was peer-reviewed or refereed. Don't ask me what the difference between peer review and referee is, but I'm told there is one. I think they're synonymous, but I am told that in some disciplines, peer review is different than referee. You'll look at your authors, make sure that they got imported correctly. Okay. You may need to go through and add some additional information to your author list. So for example, when I imported this one, it didn't tell me, or it didn't put in what institution they came from. This was a collaborative publication that I had. So I have collaborators at Virginia Commonwealth University. I had to go in and mark VCU. And then you'll also notice if a student, what was his or her level. You could go through and do this. So for example, in this particular paper, where's my student? Right here. So the 5th author was my graduate student, Harry Kiran Kodapati. He was a graduate student. So I went in and I marked him as graduate. You can mark as graduate student, undergraduate, or high school student. This is very, very important for us as an institution. We brag all the time that we spend an awful lot of time doing undergraduate research. This allows us to go in. This allows the Center for Undergraduate Research to go in and see how many undergraduates have been included as co-authors on publications. And so that kind of data is very, very helpful when we go out and try to raise money for like the Center for Undergraduate Research. You know, donors want to know, well, what kind of research do your students do, and what are the products? And so this is one way in which we can show that. So again, even though you've imported this information, you're going to want to go through, verify the information, and do this type of enrichment as well. I always cut and paste the abstract in. You can put the web address to the journal. You can upload a PDF of the document. You can keep track of the expected date of submission, the date submitted, the accepted date, and the date published. So you can keep track of this from basically, conceiving of writing a paper to actually publishing it. You can keep track of all the dates as you go along.
Doug, I have a question.
Sure.
In my list of publications, there's an entry that I had nothing to do with.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I don't have any of those, so it's hard to show. But what I'll tell you,
it's locked, so I can't.
It is locked. Yep. So if you happen to be a co-author with somebody at the university, so let's say it was Allison Abra and I was going to put her here. I entered the data. I become the owner of that record. She couldn't go in and edit it, but it'll appear in both of our accounts. Yeah. So she can use the data, but she can't edit it because I'm the data owner. So somebody input a paper that they were a co-author with you, David.
No, not in this case. I actually went and looked up the paper. It was a nursing paper, and I'm not a nurse. And
well, what happened then is somebody has inadvertently selected you.
Yeah, well, it's someone called Danielle Wells, D-A-N-Y-E-L-L.
They selected the wrong one by accident.
Yeah.
So what we're going to need to do is reach out to that individual who put that in and ask them to correct that.
It's Bonnie Harbaugh.
Bonnie who?
Harbaugh. So I'll
take care of that for you.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. let's say Hugh and I are both co-authors on a paper that we published at the university, and Hugh went in and put the paper in first because he's the corresponding author. He's the data record owner of that. I can't go in and edit that, but I can use it. It'll appear on my CV. It'll appear on my annual evaluation report. But if I notice that Hugh made a typo, I need to reach out to Hugh and say, hey, Hugh, you misspelled your name. You need to go in and fix that because he's the data record owner. And that's a data integrity rule that we have in the system. So
Yeah.
It does create a little bit of a hassle, but it helps keep down it helps minimize the number of duplicate records that we have.
Right.
Which we try to avoid. Presentations is essentially the same as publications. The only thing is we don't have a database for your presentations, right? There is no database that I'm aware of out there that you can automatically import them. So there's going to be a lot of work on getting your presentations in, and that's just going to take a little bit of time, but that's just the way that one happens to be. You can keep track of your copyrights and your patents. You can keep track of your grants and fellowships. We are working to try to get your stuff that you submit through ORA automatically uploaded into digital measures for you, but that actually has turned out to be a nightmare because ORA has both a pre-award system and a post-award system that are different. So getting all of the information in correctly has proven to be challenging, but we are working on it. For those of you who are in the sciences or in the health area and you need NIH or NSF biographical sketches, you can generate your NIH and NSF biographical sketches using this panel. It will put it in the correct format for you, and then you can print it out. So that's pretty convenient. And then, of course, we've got our service area. So we have 3 areas of service: university, professional, and public. I'm just going to pick on one because they're essentially all the same. But you would go in, you would add a new item. You would put in what kind of scope it is. Since this is a university service, really you've got department, school, college, or university. You'll put in your role. You put in all the information that you have here. You'll put in whether you were elected, whether you served in an ex officio manner. Now, you all know the answer to this question right here. Was there additional compensation or reassigned time involved for this service activity? 99% of the time, the answer to that is no, right? But if you were to be given reassigned time for a service activity, you can mark that. And you can keep track of the amount of time that you spent and your start date and your end dates. You can put evidence of service in there if you need to. Again, you can upload any file that you want. So those are the main areas for digital measures to input information. Once you have your information put in, you can actually go in and manage your biography and your web profile very, very easily. So let's look at that real quick. So you're going to have what's called a brief biography. Again, this is up to 20,000 characters. You can write as much as you want about your brief biography, and it won't be brief. But this brief biography does not appear on our website. It is the web profile biography that appears on our website. Okay? And if you click on the little question mark, you'll see that it has a maximum character count of 1,000. But we highly recommend faculty keep it to between 600 and 800. Okay? Why is it that we have a limit there? We have a limit there because we don't want your web profile we don't want people to have to scroll forever through a web profile. That's there just to give, the highlights of what you do, right? It's not an entire curriculum vitae. And so they kind of dedicated a certain amount of real estate, if you will, to your web profile, and it turned out to be around 1,000 characters. So that's why we did that. You'll notice that you can do all kinds of rich text kind of formatting. You can superscript and subscript. You can underline things if you wanted to. Maybe I want to underline Professor Masterson or italicize it. I can do that. And it will appear like that on your web profile. Okay? So you can do it once you save it. I'm not going to do that. You will put in your areas of specialization separated by commas. This will appear on your web profile. Okay? And I'll show you that in just a moment. I'm going to show you what it looks like on the web profile. Your professional interests and your other interests do not appear on your web profile. Your notable courses taught do appear on your web profile. I highly recommend that this not be an exhaustive list. You'll notice that my I don't have any of my dissertation courses or anything like that on there. Those are just research courses that students sign up for, right, to do the research. I don't list those on my graduate course listing because they're not really notable. It's just part of what I do. But I am known for teaching organic chemistry, and I'm known for teaching the MCAT prep course and medicinal chemistry. Those are things that I want to broadcast out to folks. So that will appear on my web profile. You will also notice that I can list the publications that I want to appear on my web profile. You can list up to 10. I currently have 8 listed. You do not type the publication back in. You go into the box and you select which one you want to choose. You can choose any one of them. And these all come from your publications panel that we just talked about. Okay? And these will appear in the order that are listed here. You can move them around. So maybe tomorrow I don't want this one to be at the top of the list. I could come in and I could tell it where I want to move it. And then when the web profile updates, it'll be in the new order. Okay? Our web profile at the University of Southern Mississippi updates twice a day. It updates around approximately 9 a.m. in the morning and at about 3 p.m. in the afternoon. You can go in and change your web profile the way that it looks twice a day. Okay? A year ago, you couldn't change it twice a year. I didn't change mine twice in a decade. Okay? So you have a lot of opportunity here. You can select any 10 publications you want. Some people want their 10 most recent. Some people want 10 that span their entire career. Some only want the 10 most award-winning. It's up to you, however you want to display your publications. And I would argue that probably depends on where you're at in your career. If you're a later career individual, you're probably going to want to show publications that span your career. If you're a brand new faculty member, you're probably going to pick the 8 or 10 that you have, right? And that will change over time. But you can have any 10 that you want. If you're doing creative activities as part of your scholarship, you can also select creative activities, but you'll notice mine says no options available because I do not list creative activities in my digital measures account because we're not talking about, the fact that I go home and do woodworking and make tortilla presses and that kind of stuff. While that is creative, it's not relevant to my job. So I don't include that kind of stuff here. But if you are in the dance program and you do dances as part of your scholarship, that's where you would want to select that. We allow you to select up to 5 professional memberships to appear on your web profile, and this is where you will select those. Again, you would just go in and you would select those and it would appear on your web profile. Languages will also appear on your web profile. We ask you to keep this to languages that are relevant to your work as a scholar. So you'll notice I don't list English. It's the only language that I speak, and I struggle with it. So I definitely don't want to list it on my web profile. But maybe you do research in Costa Rica or in Honduras or something like that, where maybe Spanish or some other language is relevant to that. And so you'd want to put, maybe you're fluent professional working, and then you can pick whatever language was appropriate there. And then when you save it, it will appear on your web profile. So I'm not going to save that one. And then international experience, you can put in all of the international work that you do. This does not appear on your web profile, however, but it is important kind of stuff for you to keep track of. So I do have a collaborator in Germany that's been ongoing for a number of years. He's a protein engineer. I'm not a protein engineer. I'm a chemist. We collaborate and do some work, and that's something that I list in my CV. Okay. So now I'm going to take you really quick to the web profile. Faculty directory. I'll leave the page. And I'm going to show you how things are appearing. So all of this information that you see right here is pulling straight out of digital measures, except for the photograph. Okay, the photograph you have to submit through your director. Your director knows how to get those submitted to the web group. But my title of full professor, that comes from digital measures. These areas of expertise, these were those areas of specialization that I had listed on that web profile page. So organic chemistry, amino acid synthesis, outreach opportunities, chemical education, that's appearing there. My college, my school, my discipline is all appearing there. Okay. My email address is coming in, my location, they can click and get a map to my location. All of that is there. All of this is coming out of digital measures. Now, when a student or somebody clicks on my name, it takes them to my other page and the annoying pop-up, of course. And so notice it says Dr. Douglas Masterson. That's because I selected my prefix as doctor. If I had selected professor, it would list me as Professor Douglas Masterson. And then there's my bio that you saw in digital measures. There's my education coming in from digital measures. There's those courses taught. There are my publications. You will notice that this is a fairly general way to show publications. It is not discipline specific. We couldn't do this to where, in marine science, you have one way of displaying, and in dance, you have a different way. It had to be one way. And so we settled on this type of format where it gives the title, the journal, and then the link to the DOI number so that people can actually look up the full paper if they're interested in it. Okay. So you'll see that I've got my 8 listed there. My certifications and licensures come over, and then my professional affiliations. So of all those professional affiliations, these are the ones that I wanted to share on my web profile, right? The American Chemical Society, the American Indian Science and Engineering Society, the American Society for Mass Spectrometry, PLU, and the Council on Undergraduate Research. I did not want to list that I was a member of AAUP. I value being a member of AAUP, but it doesn't really communicate what I'm trying to communicate on my web profile. I'm trying to communicate on my web profile the things that I do as a scholar, and these are the ones that best represent that. Okay. You'll also notice that over here, those areas of expertise pop up again. My phone number pops up. And again, you could change that if you needed to. Maybe your phone number changed midway for whatever reason. You changed offices or whatever the case may be. And then, of course, the link to my email so people can select that pretty easily. You'll also notice down here, edit profile. So if you forget how to get to digital measures, simply find your web profile, come down here and click edit profile, and it will take you to the login page. So that's a pretty easy way to get to your login page. So I'm going to go ahead and log back in. And I'm going to open it up for questions now. We're about a little over an hour, and my voice is starting to get crackly. So I'm going to let you all ask any questions that you may have. I do have some videos on how to import your current CV into Digital Measures. If you want to make your data entry a little easier, if you've got a long-standing, multi-decade long CV that's a Word document, you can actually import it. It's not a direct, easy import, but it's easier than typing in all the information. And I've got a video to that I can have posted on our Provost webpage. It'll show you how to use that pretty easily if you're interested. So I'll stop there and I'll open it up to any questions that you may have. Easy as pie?
Surely I didn't answer them all.
Anything else in the chat, Hugh?
Well, someone asked, would you please post the video for the import CV? If you can actually, if you'll send that to me, I can send it out to all of the participants today.
I'll do that. I'll have to find it on my YouTube channel, but I can get that to you pretty easy. Okay, well, if there are no other questions, then I'm just gonna, we'll just call it an end, and I'll give you back about 15 minutes of your day. And Hugh's gonna stop the video, and I think you'll be able to share that with me at some point, right, Hugh?
That is correct. It'll probably take 30, 45 minutes to process, and then I can send you the recording file.
Sounds good. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I'd be more than happy to answer any of them. Have fun with Digital Measures.
Thank you all. We really appreciate it. And thank you for participating through the Center of Faculty Development. And everyone have a really nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.